Welcome back, everybody, to the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. I am Jimmy Don Kerr. My guest today is a member of the community I've really gotten to know probably over, I guess, the last 6 months. And he's one of those guys that when you meet him, he instantly becomes like family. And I don't know how to explain that. There's a lot of folks in the community that you feel close to as you get to know them, but Chip's one of those people for me. When I was kind of figuring out how to try to do this intro for him, I went on to his YouTube channel, and I thought this was a perfect description of Chip. It's also just how Chip's personality is. It says, "I'm Chip, a guy who likes talking about comics, cigars, coffee, and gadgets. I'm an IT geek by trade, but started my life as a graphic designer. Not a good one, but a graphic designer nonetheless." And I thought that really described Chip, because if you see Chip, he likes the cigars. He loves his coffee. He's got a great segment that he does, a short that he does almost every day, coffee and comic. Um, you'll see him smoking cigars on the show that he does on Saturday evenings, Banter, which has become like this epic hangout for the comic community. I think the other night it went almost 8 hours. Like, I literally jumped on, came off, and came back like 4 hours later, and everybody was still there. So yeah, Banter is awesome. You'll see comic book hauls. He's been doing some gaming here of late, playing some Star Wars on there as well. Everybody join me in welcoming to 10 Questions the White Shadow himself, Chip Gettler.
Hi everyone, how you all doing today?
Yeah, no, I love that description, Chip, because it's like you are, kind of like, you don't give yourself enough credit, I think, sometimes. And like this, I'm an IT. I wasn't a good graphic designer, but I was one nonetheless. And I thought, well, that's
You
Chip
know,
perfectly. Like, if I was talking to Chip, that's what he would say, just kind of joking.
yeah, no, that basically boils me down. I kind of, I dabble a little bit in here, a little bit there, and decide not that good, but you know what? I'm good enough to keep going and keep doing it and have fun with it. And I mean, for me, it's all about having the fun. So, I mean, whether I'm at work or I'm on here or just hanging out with the family and the friends, it's all about just having fun.
No, that's awesome, man. All right,
So,
so let's just
yeah,
jump right into it, Chip. And question
sure.
one, everybody knows, is always the same, and that is, what or who got you into collecting?
So for me, it all started back in 2017, probably. For me, that's when I actually started collecting comics in general.
Mm-hmm.
I actually work with a gentleman that he started around 2017, 2016, 2017. He started working for us, and he was telling me how he has a comic convention that he runs. And I was like, what do you mean you run a comic convention? So he ended up talking about how, oh yeah, I run this with my wife. We have people come in. I've never been to one. He's like, well, if you want to work mine, you can come down and help out. I'm like, sure, why not? So prior to going to help him, we C2E2 came around. So he's like, well, let's go to C2E2. I'm like, okay, great. So we show up at C2E2 and just walk around C2E2. And my first ever comic experience, Comic Con, anything. I mean, I was like, it was a culture shock for me. I was like, holy crap. I mean, blown away. Also blown away at the fact that he was so into the community that like all these artists and table people, that are drawing and selling books and doing all that are coming up to him, talking to him and, hey Brian, hey, come on over, and they're talking and talking. I'm just like, who the fuck am I with? This is just my little graphic designer that I work with. Who the hell is this guy? And then it just became more intriguing for me to find out more about him and more about the community. And then after that, I mean, I literally went to C2E2. I didn't buy anything. Just walked the show. One, just basically just the whole show and just spent time meeting people and just talking with people and hanging out with him. And then the second time I went, it was like, all right, now I'm here to buy and meet more people on my, as myself, instead of just Brian's friend. So, but after that, then I decided after that C2E2, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go into a comic shop that's right down the street from me, and I'm gonna buy a comic. I'm gonna go. I know nothing about other than when I just walked around. So my buddy Brian was like, well, yeah, look into Batman, look into Spider-Man, the norms. I'm like, fine. So I ended up showing up, went to a comic shop, talked to a couple guys there that were workers. and they turned me on to comics and said, "Oh, here, get this one. Here, get this one. Here, this one's gonna be good. Get this." And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, fine. So that's what started me. It was 2017, a comic convention, and coming right into comics. So I started kind of the reverse. I didn't collect comics and then go into comic conventions. I went to comic conventions, then into comics.
That's funny. So, you,
That's-
like as a kid growing up, like you didn't collect. Had you ever read a comic book up until 17?
You know what? I'll be honest. I probably have, I mean, I can't say I've never read a comic. I probably have read comic.
Sure.
I just can't remember. It wasn't like I was a collector. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up with Mad magazines and stuff like that. But for me, it was all about the graphic and the folding the thing in the back and making the cover, changing the image from one one image to another. But I was never really a comic reader per se. As a kid, I would collect little baseball cards and stuff like that. But that I was never really big into collecting as a kid.
Well, that's interesting,
Yeah.
because a lot of the people
Yeah.
that I talk to in the community, we all started at some point younger
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of found our way back. So
Yeah.
you didn't necessarily collect, you just found it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
end up meeting a cat that, was into it and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, what's this? And that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that because I know, for me, you've heard me tell it many times, I mean, I was always around it growing up, just around because my
Mhm.
uncle was always selling. And so I was around it, and he was cool and would give me access to anything I wanted. I was allowed to touch or do whatever I wanted of the stuff he was selling. He didn't care. He
Yeah.
was, some people are like, no, you can't touch this. Not my uncle, not with me anyway. He was like that with other people, but I would do whatever. He let me do whatever I wanted. So that's interesting. So I bet it was a culture shock, though, like rolling into a comic convention. And
Yeah. I mean,
those
it
things are
really
massive.
was. Oh, and C2E2 being the first one. I mean,
It's the
his
biggest,
comic.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his show is he does a local show called NWI, Northwest Indiana Comic Convention, and it's just right over across the Illinois Indiana border. And I mean, his comic convention probably gets 2,000 to 3,000 people on a single day because he only does it for one day. That's all he can. He's like, I can't handle the stress of multiple days, so he does one day comic convention, and he gets a few thousand people. But for this thing, it was just like, I mean, for me to it was just overwhelming. I mean, it really was. It was a culture shock for me, big time. Walking around, seeing people like dressed as people. I really was. I didn't know much about the cosplay thing. I didn't know much about the community. I mean, like I'm just walking around like, who the, why, what the heck is going on?
Well, I know the first
It's
one I
like I
ever
was.
went to, like the cosplay thing, kind of blew my mind. Like I didn't realize
Yeah,
people were so into that.
me
So,
neither.
all right, well, let's make this question too. Then
Sure.
is like what? Okay, since you kind of got started later in life, like what drew you to it? Like, was it the? I have. It has to be a lot of times it's the art. I think people see those covers, you see people doing that. So, what was it that actually drew you to? Oh, maybe this is something I want to get into.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, because literally, I mean, 2017. So I was what? Yeah, I guess you could call this my midlife crisis. I was 50 when I started, right? So 40 years ago, so I was, um, so it basically boiled down to, you know, I've always liked the Spider-Mans and stuff like that. I mean, just as a watching TV shows and I always watch Spider-Man and superheroes and all that stuff, but for me, it was more like I got it in and I came in and I started reading. I think the first comics that I ended up buying was um it was Batman Forged, Dark Days Forged,
Yeah,
and then casting, and then went from that to Dark Metal and worked my way. I mean, so it was that and Weapons of Mass Destruction, or right before Weapons of Mass Destruction, I think it was Weapon X. So I started reading like Weapon X 1, 2, 3. Those were the comics that the guy just gave me. And when I first got them, I'm just like, I'm going in, like I was scared shitless going into a comic shop. It was the weirdest feeling in the world to be like so nervous to go into a shop because you didn't want to feel like you were being dumb, walking in this thing like I don't know
sure.
nothing and I'm 50 some years old or 40 some years old. What the heck. Um, but when I got in there and the guy was just so nice and he was just like, here, take a look at this and here, take a look at that. I was like, all right, fine. So I got him and I started and I just hooked instantly. I was like, oh my Lord, this is so awesome because I could take my my stresses of work and life in general and just kind of push them to the side, focus in on the story and read the story and get engrossed in what's going on within this, within these worlds. And it was, I was fortunate enough I could start off at good, I thought that they were good arcs for Weapon X. which which turned into Weapon H, which was the
Yeah.
which was where I was going with it, and then obviously the Batman series, because I've always been a Batman fan. So yeah, so those were the things that really, and then as time goes on, you start reading more and more and more. That's kind of just hooked me into it, and just kind of like, oh, this is awesome. And then it became like, and I'm trying to buy anything and everything I can related to that world, and that stuff with the Batman stuff. And so, yeah.
Cool. So let's make this question 3. All right. So since you started in
Mm-hmm.
17, like I know for me, Chip, how it's been as
Mm-hmm.
when I first started, because I had a similar experience where, I was out shopping with my wife and kids. I hate to shop. I'm a pretty nice guy, and pretty laid back. But
Yeah.
you take me to the mall or take me shopping, I become an animal. I go back to our most primal instinct. Like I despise it. Like I hate to shop. So I
Yeah.
was dropping them. I dropped them off, and I said, "There's a comic shop." We were where my office is at, and we went to a little place out there. And I said, "Well, there's a comic shop up there. I'm going to go check it out." And I walked in. It was like, there's just all this stuff, and it just kind of blew me away because it had been years since I walked into a comic shop. And then I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I found my happy place." But when I first started collecting, I was literally buying everything. Like every variant cover, every title, everything. Did you have a similar experience when you first started?
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, it was because if I mean once you were in the metal, you get into that metal world with the Batman metal, the Dark Knight metal. It became like, okay, they've spun offs. Then it was all these spin-offs, or there was tie-ins basically,
Tie-ins,
and I didn't know at the time what they were called, right? So I'm like, oh, what the heck? Okay, now I've got to buy Aquaman. I got to buy this. I got to buy. I'm like, what the hell? Teen Titans. What the hell is Teen Titans? I don't know what a Teen Titans is. Okay, I'll buy it. And I'm just buying all of these different things. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. But then I started buying some of the Amazing Spider-Mans. And then it was just like, all right, now there becomes the variant covers and all the different looking covers to it. And then I realized, oh, wait, Batman Metal had a bunch of variant covers. So now I need to go back and buy a #1 variants of it was just it became overwhelming. It almost got to the point where it's like, man, there's just way too many variant covers and there's way too much going on. But I've literally spent like a good year just buying everything and anything I could related to it. So like if there was a variant, I bought it. I mean, it was pretty bad. It was like getting crazy, and I was going online and I'm buying them from Facebook, and then I'm buying them from the local shop as well because he doesn't have it. So I'm hitting up Facebook because I really wasn't thinking eBay at the time even. I was thinking, oh, I'm on Facebook. I talk, I got friends and family, and let me see if there's anybody out there do marketplace selling comics. And all of a sudden I fell into this comic book community thing. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then I started pre-ordering from Kai's in Philadelphia and other FOCs, and I learned about what it is with that stuff. But pardon me, my dogs, by the way, if you
Oh,
hear them in the
that's fine.
background.
Mine will bark here. Mine will bark here shortly. Every Nessa
Yeah.
makes an appearance in every video I do. So
Yeah, mine too. So that's kind of what I ended up doing, was buying and buying and buying, and then finally I just recently gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I don't need every variant. I'm just gonna buy like the ones that I like, the covers that I like. I may try to buy the regular #1, but then I maybe buy like maybe one other. Like if I find that there's a cover that I really want, oh, that's a cool looking cover, let me get that. I'll do it as a cover buy, but I want to always try to get like the main #1 A, basically the A
right, cover
covers.
day, right.
Yeah.
So I know it's changed for me a lot since I started. Like I said, and now the way that I collect continues to evolve
Hmm.
into, because now one of the questions I usually ask, and I'll kind of phrase it here in question 3 for you,
Sure.
is, I read a lot.
Hmm.
Like I said, I don't just read comic books, I read a lot of different things. But I am a reader who
Yeah.
collects. But I have even kind of changed. I still read all the stuff, but I haven't been. I've been doing some digital. The titles I really
Yeah.
want. Like I spend a lot of time, especially when I do some of the videos I do, really figuring out what I want to buy. Has that happened for you too? Where okay, maybe I'm reading a little bit digital. Maybe I'm buying some titles, covers. Like how's that changed for you? To today?
It's changed a lot actually. Because everything originally was always buy, hitting up everything physically. And then I was actually, it's weird because I started off as a reader, that then became a collector. And now I find myself trying to get back into the reading side of things. So, because I was like really big into read, and then all of a sudden, then it was like, but then I want this cover, I want that one, oh, that's a cool book. I like this cover. I want this, I want that. Let me start building these collections. Let me start building the ASM and the Daredevils and the Star Wars and the Thor and stuff like that. And then now it's become more of like, okay, now I'm back into the reading side of things, and I'm finding that as I'm doing that, a lot of the things that I may even have it sitting in the back, bin behind me, but I'll go online and I'll Comixology it, or I'll try to find it somewhere online where I can buy the thing digitally and just read it digitally. So that way I don't have to mess with anything in the back. But then also I'm finding more and more things that I'm buying. I am doing a good mix, I think, of physical and digital now because
Yeah, I
there's
find a
only
lot
so
of
much
people because
space in a
there's
house.
exactly, and that's part of my
Yeah.
problem is it's a matter of space, and
Yeah.
but two, like I said, where I like to read, some of it works for me. I am old school. We're probably
Yeah.
close to the same age, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
old school, and I like to have the physical book in my hand. So
Hmm.
reading digital has been I don't know, it's taken me some time to really
Yeah.
accept the digital, but there is some beautiful. I mean, there is some people, especially artists are drawing uh, to
Yeah.
the computer. They're not necessarily hand drawn. It's all and it when you read it digitally, man, it really like pops a lot of times when you're looking
Yeah.
at. You find that too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. And it's funny because even some of the older stuff I've gone back and I've started to try to read digitally, like the original, like the Daredevil. Like my
Mhm.
goal is read Daredevil 1 to current, right? But I've been like, there's no way I'm gonna go out and find Daredevil 1 and all these earlier issues. So I've been reading a lot of those digitally. But a lot of there's some comics that it's just like, you read it, you're like, okay, this I could see this on paper. I mean, it would be a great print, but digitally it just seems to have better pop to it, and the colors, it just appeals to me better on a digital platform, whether I'm on my Kindle or my iPad or my computer or whatever, and just reading it on there versus the paper. I yeah, I see,
Do you think that's kind of where you have an IT background? That's kind of what you do. Do you think
Mhm.
that's part of the reason why is because you're so used to looking at a screen necessarily? It may suit you
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely so. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also, um, I mean, although I enjoy the print side of things too, but I mean, digitally, I'm really into the digital aspect of computers and just in general with the actual, you know, now I'm, doing my own drawings and drawing on digitally, on iPads and stuff like that and doing my own artwork and stuff. So I'm kind of moving in that direction versus on paper and
Cool.
painting and stuff like that. So yeah.
Oh, that's
So
cool. Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah.
No, like I said, that's always an interesting question to me because, like I said, I know how much it's changed for me.
Hmm.
And I think I started maybe 16. I jumped back in when Rebirth started, like literally right when Rebirth started. The week that I walked in is when the first one shot for Rebirth came out. And as a DC guy, that
Yeah.
immediately I was like, okay, this is a great jumping off point. I can, jump in right here and start. And then this, you know, 50 short boxes over here later, it's you're like, okay.
Oh my
So
word.
yeah, it really does. It makes you have to kind of consider how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
You definitely do. Wow. 50 short boxes. That's craziness, man.
yeah, no, it's nuts, dude. I had a problem there for a minute. I still got a problem. Like, uh, and I find this like I like to legit like it is almost now for me becoming as much about nostalgia and what I collect because like when I grew up, it was Star Wars, He Man, GI Joe, those things, and I find myself more pulled to that. I'm reading, all the indies. I'm reading, the Supermans, the Batmans, and Supermans, and all that stuff now. But I find myself wanting to go back and pick up toys for He-Man or toys like I have a ton of GI Joe stuff, a ton of it, and that I had
Yeah.
as a kid and going back and taking them apart and cleaning them, putting them back together and getting them, and like that. Do you kind of do the same thing? Do you like have, I know you've been getting into the Star Wars black figures.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because in my office in where I work, the building that I work in, the office, I mean, I literally have like shelves and shelves of like just Star Wars Lego figures and Marvel and DC, figures. So each shelf has a different, theme on it. And then I've got like, I've got one of the old football games that you used to play as a kid,
Oh
or
yeah,
the Mattel Fuko with the dots, the red dot,
yeah,
and you'd have to,
absolutely, yeah,
so I got one of those, I've had for, since I was younger or whatever. But I mean, I have a lot of those toys sitting at work, and my CEO always walks in and she just looks around and she's just like, oh my lord, it's like I know how my wife feels too, because like the other day was like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna run over to Office Max and go buy some stuff from Office Max. I'm like, all right, well, next door is a Target, so I'm gonna go into Target. And she's like, why are you going to Target? And she's like, oh wait, that's right, they sell Star Wars figures. She's like, you're like 50, what are you doing? I'm like, So, but
yeah.
yeah, I do
A
find
child
myself
at heart.
leaning in that toward direction.
That's what I tell everybody. I'm a 46-year-old child. And
Yeah,
it
no
keeps
doubt.
me young. I don't know. I really always enjoyed it, and now that I have the money to spend on it, it's a lot of fun. Like to
Yeah.
go back and pick those things up. And like I said, the
Oh
toys.
yeah.
And that's the part with it being so expensive is because like the toys. I want to go back and grab all these old toys that I had when I was a kid. Like why didn't
Dude.
because I played with my toys. Like when I grew up, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you were the same way, you didn't have you didn't have phones, you didn't have computers
No.
necessarily. You had
No.
to go outside and play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. No doubt.
yeah, we would have have all these GI Joe toys, and we would go up in the hills on one of the flats, and we would create this entire like play area of GI Joe stuff or Star Wars stuff. And when it snowed, I
Yeah.
would do like the winter scene from Empire Strikes Back. Like the whole thing. So our toys got
Yeah.
beat to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny thing about it, it's like when I was younger, family wasn't all that rich, but my neighbor, like one of my best friends, basically growing up, Joey, his family was, had money. So he always had all the toys. So all the G.I. Joe figures and stuff like that, he had all of those. I had the Star Wars, the Star Wars figures. He had G.I. Joe. And we would destroy the hell out of those things. I mean, we would take firecrackers and try to get them to, blow up with firecrackers and just, pretending that their bombs going off and someone threw a grenade. And it's just, we just had fun as kids, and you just destroyed the hell out of all of those toys. You know, whether it's like taking the X-Wing fighter that you had and throwing it across the room at your brother and, trying to hit him. And I mean, you just didn't care. And I was just like, damn, I wish I had it.
Right?
There's
Yeah.
like,
Like it kept
yeah,
all that stuff in boxes. Like it'd have been worth a fortune today.
I know exactly. I mean, there's one toy now that I really, really want to get, and I've yet to find what I want to get, with the grail of it. But that's that Evil Knievel where you spin that bad boy
Oh
up. I
yeah.
remember that where
Yes.
you do that, and then he take off and he jump, and the little red. Oh, I want that. That I want. I mean, I was always a big Evil Knievel fan when I was a kid growing up. So that's one of those. I gotta find that one day. It's funny because I could hit eBay and go buy the damn thing, but it's like, no, I don't want to. I want to. I want to find it in the wild somewhere at an antique shop or something.
Absolutely.
So
That's part of the fun of the whole hobby is it's like treasure hunting.
yeah,
Going
yeah,
back and
yeah,
finding
yeah,
those things.
yeah. Definitely so. Definitely. Yeah.
All right,
So.
so let's go to question four. And question four is why did you start a YouTube channel? Like, were you bored during COVID or what was the
Mm.
deal? Like what got you going onto YouTube?
So, so for me, okay, so I, being in IT, I've always been in with the computers, and with computers always comes gaming, right? Games have
Hmm.
always been a big thing for me too, and being able to do gaming and game in general. So, as a younger 45-year-old, 43-year-old, I'm like, all right, I work with a bunch of younger people. I'm in IT. I've been in IT for 18, 20 years, whatever, 18 years or so now. And in that, I'm like, I've always been in the gaming as well. So I was always playing Xbox and PS3s and stuff like that. So I used to watch Twitch all the time. And Twitch is, if you're not familiar, or anybody that's in the audience isn't familiar, Twitch is basically a gaming platform similar to YouTube, but yeah, you're watching people play video games. There's a lot of other going on in there as well now as of late, but primarily when I was watching originally was gaming. And so with that, I started following people on there. and realizing, oh, they've got a YouTube channel, so I can go on YouTube and I can watch some of them play their games that I hadn't watched on Twitch, but I could see, and then you start becoming part of that little community and watching and getting engaged with that. And for that led me into the YouTube world, and I'm just like, oh, so then I was like, oh, I could use YouTube. It's more than just, how do you find a stud in a wall or something silly like that. It's more, I can watch games and I can, it becomes a community. You start realizing there's communities within YouTube instead of just information within YouTube. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So when I started collecting, I was watching videos and stuff like that, but never really watching anything on YouTube related to comics. So I decided that I would go out and um, I bought, I started, joined Instagram. I found Comic Time 101 on Instagram, and I bought a mystery box, my first mystery box. And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to buy this mystery box, but I don't, I mean, I want to show it off because I mean, I was like, I'd been watching. I stumbled onto Taylor actually because I was trying to
Huh.
figure out like mystery boxes. How do what's a mystery box? What the heck is in this thing? I stumbled onto Taylor. I think it was Taylor and slotted up or someone, and he was opening a mystery box for someone. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. So I ended up watching their videos and then I watched how they were doing it, what they were doing. So when I got my Comic Town 101 video or Comic Town my mystery box, first video I decided I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna turn on my phone and I'm gonna go for it. So I turned on the phone, I set it up, and I just started recording on it of me opening up this mystery box, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and that was the first time I just decided, I'd been part of that whole world anyways, kind of just watching and watching and watching, that I wanted to start doing like because of my graphic design background, I wanted to start doing. That's why, like I said, I'm so all over the place on what I want to do within the community because, like, I wanted to do like tutorials on showing people how to make graphics and how to make overlays and make Twitch banners and make, the icons and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, now I want to show people how to do this, you know, how to clean comics or how to look, use, look at comics and identify a comic and what value it has. It's just so much out there. It's just like, But that was like my first step on was like, all right, well, let me at least try to do an unboxing because I seen Taylor doing it, and I'm like, all right, Taylor's doing this and he's doing a good job of it. And I think him and Slot were the ones that I seen on it, or him and Gary B. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try doing that. So that was my first time doing a video was based on watching them do it, and then after that, it was like, all right, I'll keep going. So
Right. No, that's cool. I mean, I think I was the same way. Well, mine started with my daughters, right, and trying to
yeah,
prove something to them, but it
hmm
became so much more. And one of
hmm
the interesting questions is, and we were kind of talking a little bit about it before we came on, is
yeah,
trying to find your lane on
yeah.
YouTube and what you want to do and how it suits your personality. Like that is the biggest challenge, I think, as you keep going. Like, you can grab mystery boxes and open them, and that works really, really well for some people. Like DJ Links is a master at
Oh
the,
yeah, he's
you know,
awesome.
the mystery box. I mean, like he is the master. DJ has this unique ability to make everybody feel like they're his best friend. It's really
hmm
impressive to watch how his channel's grown. But it's like when he's talking on screen, he's talking to you. Now, I myself
Yeah,
don't have that charisma. I talk funny,
yeah,
and it's what do you
dude.
do? And
Yeah,
so, how has that been for you? Like trying to find your lane, and have you found your lane yet? Like, do you feel like you found your lane, or is it still an experimenting process?
dude. It's an experimental process, and it's always changing. I mean, you'll notice, like, I mean, I've got the old the white shadow banner like thing right there, whatever. Where I can't do the finger thing on there. I'm pulling a Nick on this, and Nick's kicks and comics. Not sure which way I'm going, but I literally, it's always trying to figure out what my next, what I'm gonna do. What's my channel gonna be about, right? And um. I'll be honest, I kind of almost feel as though my channel, although I enjoy showing off, hey, I've got this comic on New Comic Book Wednesdays and things like that. I enjoy showing some of that stuff off as to what I've got. Um, but I was never big into show and tell personally. So it's kind of it's kind of like, to me it's like, show it off. Hey, look what I got. Look what I got. Look what I got. And it's like, okay. But I'm really finding now that I'm enjoying more the open forum, the banter thing, the thing I do
Hmm.
every Saturdays. I'm really enjoying that because I realized what I came into YouTube was to kind of to connect with people, right? To connect with the community in general, a community. And it was going to be more, because I watch people that are on Twitch and stuff like that, that were having that communication and that community interaction, and then realized you could do it on YouTube as well. Perfect. Um, so I think now that I'm doing more of the banter stuff, I think that's kind of where my 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 thing is going. I mean, it seems to be moving in that direction. Um, I recently, changed out like my logo on my YouTube page and my, my little, because I was trying to think, okay, as you said, I even wrote up, oh, I'm into comics and cigars and coffee and gadgets and stuff because originally I was going to do gadget reviews, oh, this is
Right.
stuff like this would be cool. Gadget reviews. I'm into geek. I'm a tech, I'm into tech and I'm a geek, but it's just really never evolved into anything like that. A couple here, a couple there. Um, so I just said, I'm just going to make it, just make it anything geekdom, is basically just, whatever, whatever I can find that I feel is, fits me, and what I want to do. And then just talk about it, whether I'm talking about it live or just in general, But I think the live thing, it seems to be more my stream, more my lane lately, just kind
Well,
of just hanging
Banter's,
out and
Banter's
shooting.
cool because I watch Banter almost every Saturday. At least I'm kind of
Yeah.
in and out.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
I jumped on for the first time myself Saturday because I was doing
Yeah.
spine ticks, and they're on the West Coast, so they don't start till 11, and so or
Yeah.
11 at my time. And so
Hmm.
I happened to come up, I got set up, and I was doing all that, and I was like, oh well, Chip and them are on. I'm going to jump on there real quick, and
Yeah.
that's something that I think, Chip, is one of the best things, and I really like that for you too because it works well and it seems to suit you.
Yeah.
As far as that discussion goes, and it's just a bunch of people hanging out that like each other in the community. Hey, let's jump on and talk for a little while. So no, I think banter's cool. So I want to go to question
Yeah.
5 because that was kind of
Yeah.
had to do with banter and
Yeah.
some of the segments that you do. And I was interested because now I like coffee too, right? Like I'm a big coffee drinker. I
Mm-hmm.
like trying different coffees,
Yeah.
and so I kind of like the shorts that you do, and I watch them just about every day. And I've actually purchased some of the coffee, to be completely honest. So
Oh, very
it's
cool.
actually led me to buy some of the coffee. Um,
Awesome.
so where do the ideas for like coffee and comics, and like banter, like what was going on in your mind where you were like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah. So the funny thing with the coffee and the comic thing is, I mean, I've always been into coffee. It's funny. I was in a conversation the other night, and um, Chris, the comic vet, asked me, hey, do you have you ever had a Keurig? And I'm like, well, yeah, Keurig coffee maker. I'm like, I mean, yeah, like the moment Keurig came out with a coffee maker, I owned one. I owned like the first version of that because I've always been into that coffee type thing. And then I've owned like 7 different versions of it since then. And they've all kind of lasted about a year and a half and then broke, and I'm just like, throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. And then I finally decided I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy an espresso machine. All right. So I ended up going out and bought this espresso machine, and that's what I've been using as of late. But I've always really been into coffee. So I happened to be on Instagram and stumbled across I actually think it's a forgot the name of the program, but I think it's like $1.88 or something like that is what it's called. And you kind of goes on and it allows you to track different topics and hashtags that you can go on. And actually, it helps you build your Instagram community, your people. So it gives you like, here, comment on all 188 of these things, these channels on a daily basis. And it helps grow your following as well as, gets you, part of the community. And that's what I started out on Instagram doing. And in that, I made a comment to someone on there who had a comic sitting out on a table with a cup of coffee and top view down. And I just looked at it. I was like, wow, you're a brave man having a comic and a coffee next to each other like that. Don't spill that coffee. And he responded back with, now I'm a seasoned professional. I've been doing this for a while. I know how to drink my coffee and not spill it. So then him and I just started talking back and forth, and he's become like one of my best friends on Instagram. And and it's Chili's Pull List. I don't know if you know who he is, but his name's John. He's Chili's Pull List on Instagram. Great guy, very religious. Every day he posts a photo that's related to comics, comic and a coffee, and then he'll do a little prayer at the end of it or some sort of words of wisdom and things like that. And me, I'm like the anti, of that, so he's like one end of it, I'm on the other side of it, looking at, but it's funny how we both came together and he's my, as I call it, my brother in beans, so that's kind of like hashtag brother in beans or BIB, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to post something. So I posted just kind of as a, hey, a shout out to my buddy John. I'm going to do a video or shoot a photo. I shot a photo at first, posted on Instagram. And then after that, I'm like, all right, well, now I gotta do better than that. So then I did a video. And then after that, it just became a thing. It just kept snowballing. I'm like, I'm gonna do a video every day for 365 days. I didn't do it. I can tell you, I honestly didn't, because that is a lot of videoing and I'm so busy with work. There's like no way I've got time to, because I'm like 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up, going and out the door. It's like I don't have time to be shooting videos. So then I started shooting them in the office, at my home office, or my work office. So I went out and I got an espresso machine and I put the Nespresso in and I'd film that, and people would be like walking by my office like, what the hell are you doing? So then I think, okay, I'm getting to work earlier and earlier so I can shoot a video before work. I'm like, it's just getting crazy. It's like, all right, I got to calm down and I'll do it every once in a while, but I'm not going to do it every day anymore. So that's where the coffee and comics came in. And then the banter side of it was more to do with just it started out hanging out with Legion on Friday mornings. So he started doing his Friday morning hangouts. And I was just like, oh, this is cool. I started hanging out, meeting up with him and Tyler and me. We just kind of would hang out and we just kind of shoot. And then people would come in and they would leave. And it would become like I would have it on in the background and I'm like BRB, be right back. And I'd go away from the camera for a while and I'd be working and in meetings and this and that. And I'd come back to it and they'd still be talking. And I was like, this is awesome. So I told them that I wanted to do like a 2 hour. I asked them, it's like, hey, do you mind if I borrow your idea and do a 2 hour before Freaky Louie, does his live from Newport? I think that's where it is, Newport.
Mm-hmm.
Live from Newport, Saturday night, the show. So, and he does it at 9 p.m. Central. And so I was like, well, I'll do from 7 to 9. I'll do a 2 hour window. Plus, I literally have no views on my channel anyway. So, you know what, it'll help with, the 4,000 view hours or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and I'll do this. So I ended up doing that, and I did it like 2 times, the pre-show for him. And I would advertise his show within that, and I still do. I mean, I always ask him every Saturday before I go, hey, are you going to be doing a show tonight? Because if he is, I'm advertising it. Hey, after this, we're going over to Freaky's. We're going to watch Freaky Louie. We're going to, and then, and it turned out to be an accident. I actually was on camera. 9 o'clock rolls. All right, guys, that's it. We're done. Let's go take a look at Freaky. I'll meet you guys over there. I go over to Freaky Louie, but I kept the tab open on my computer for StreamYard. Watching Freaky Louie on YouTube, all that stuff. I come back as I'm closing up for the night. I realize, oh, my tab's still open. Well, then a couple of people, Hoarders High jumped in, and a couple other people jumped in. Were like, hey, you're still going? And I'm like, sure. Next thing I know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and we're still up and running and talking. And I'm just like, oh my Lord, this is pretty cool. All right. So I'm like, all right, this will work. So then the next time, next Saturday and the next one. And it was like, okay, I'll do it every other Saturday. And then it becomes like, okay, now it's just every Saturday. Cause everyone's like, oh, are you doing it? Oh, are you doing it? I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. But now it's like, 8-9 hour runs at a time. I mean, it's like a full-time job, doing it every Saturday. It's like, it's like, oh my Lord. I looked the other day, I was like 8 hours and 40 minutes one video, 8 hours and 20 minutes this past week. This last one we just did it was only like 7 hours and something, but it was like, and I'm sitting there saying only 7 hours, but it's like, oh my Lord, it's craziness. So, but it's great. I love it. So.
Now, what about like cigars? Where did the love of cigars come from? Because that's something I have not found. Like I will smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
Like if I'm with somebody who knows what they're doing, actually understands what the cigar is and what a good cigar actually is. I have smoked cigars before, but it's not something for me necessarily that I found a love for. Like, where did your love for cigars come from?
It's funny. I've actually been smoking cigars since probably maybe 92,
Hmm.
93. I literally, I was in the army. When I got out of the army, in the army, I would chew. I would, chew tobacco,
Hmm.
do, the chew. And then I smoked as well. And then I got to the age of 30 and I quit smoking. I was like, all right, I'm done cold turkey. I've been smoking since I was like 13, at the time,
Hmm.
So, 15, 17 years later, I decided I'm going to quit. So I quit smoking cigarettes and quit chewing all that stuff when I got out of the military. And I really wasn't doing anything. And then a buddy of mine, I was working at a machine shop. I was a machinist, doing CNC lathing machines and stuff like that. And as I was working, and I used to work midnight, so we would kind of hang out in the yard afterwards, and I'd sit there and they'd go out and smoke, and I'd be like, I'd hang out with them, but I was just like, I don't really want to smoke a cigarette, type of thing, because I didn't really want to get into that. And I'm like, so a buddy of mine had a small cigar, and he's like, well, here, you want a cigar? Hang out with us. I got a cigar. Let me go grab a car. So he grabbed the car, went to the car, grabbed the cigar, and gave it to me. And I sat out there and I'm like, well, I don't have to inhale this. So it can't be that bad for me. I'm not inhaling, right? Mindset.
For sure.
So it's like, all right, fine. So I ended up started smoking cigars and they were all the Swisher Sweets and the stuff like
Hmm.
that. And then I finally decided, I'm going to hit a cigar shop one day. And so me and him went to a cigar shop and ended up buying a couple cigars and they were like Macanudos or something like that. And we started smoking, we would hang out. And then it just became this weekend, every Saturday, Friday, Saturday, we'd hang out. We'd always go to his house, we'd hang out and we'd sit around, we'd smoke cigars and we'd talk. And then because because I like the technology and the computers and stuff like that. And at the time I had a computer. So I would jump out on the computer and then realize that there's a whole community of cigar smokers as well. And at the time there were forums, they called forums, kind of chat, you posting messages, kind of think of Reddit, for this,
Sure.
but there was just for cigars. And so I would hang out in those and and I realized that they were doing a lot of things that we do now, AOKs and stuff like that. And they were doing those same types of things. So they would call bombing your mailbox. And all of a sudden you get home one day from work and you'd have a box full of all these different cigars that someone had just gifted you. And you're like, what the whole? So your small little hundred piece humidor turns into a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And next thing you know, you're buying a igloo cooler full, full of cigars, and you're throwing cedar in the side of it and packs and stuff like that for humidity, just to keep these gobs and gobs of cigars going. And yeah, so it's just always been one of those things. I've always started collecting cigars, I guess you could say, is one of the collectibles I did have and do have. So it's trimmed down a lot because I did stop for a period of time, but
Hmm.
I've started getting back into it again. My wife went out for my birthday, picked me up a humidor, and it's kind of like a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cooled inside and humidity and everything inside it. So yeah, sets a perfect temperature and everything. So, but yeah, it's
That's
nice.
cool because I didn't realize that. I was talking to the vet, and when we did 10 questions,
Yeah,
and I didn't necessarily know that he was a cigar guy, but they'll travel around and
me neither.
make a road trip and do cigars. And I didn't realize like there was a doctor here locally that would literally fly to Cuba and do free medical work so that he could essentially smuggle back Cuban cigars
Yeah,
into the country. That's when I realized that it was like a thing. And
yeah,
so I know here, obviously Kentucky is bourbon country, and in
yeah.
Lexington you'll go down and there are literally bourbon cigar, uh, almost like clubs where you can go in and you can sample bourbon, you can try different cigars, you can do different things like that. Do you do anything like that, or is it more just almost like a collecting thing? Like, how do you kind of, I guess, take part in that community?
Oh no, it's definitely the same similar thing here with there's clubs out here that actually are catered towards, go and have like, a whiskey or a brand and some sort of, and a cigar and they pair those things for you and oh we're doing this but we're doing it with this cigar or this cigar goes good with this type of drink type of thing. So there's like these pairing things that they do here and where I'm at, but I'm not a big drinker.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be in a former life of military. But
I feel you.
yeah. But and I was never. I mean, I was more of a cognac and Cavassier and Hennessy and gin and stuff like that type of drinker than I was a whiskey drinker. Although my arch nemesis in the military was always Jim Beam. So it was, Jim and Jack were the worst, my worst two enemies. Anyone think Jim and Jack, I hated because it was just like they were the worst because bad stories.
Yeah,
Lots of
no, I feel
drunken
you, brother.
times on
Like
those.
I think we've all probably got that former life. Like I enjoy good bourbon now. Like to sit
Yeah.
down and sip on a good bourbon, and I find that interesting. How like I know there are like I've never been a wine drinker. I've always wanted to be a wine drinker, because I thought it looked cool, but I don't like it. I like beer. I like beer and bourbon. That's what. And in a former life, I drank
Yeah.
more of that stuff than I should have. But I do
Yeah.
enjoy a good bourbon now, to sit down and really just drink. But I find it interesting how they pair those with cigars. I'm like, how do you figure out what goes together? Like what is it about a cigar that makes it go good with a particular whiskey or bourbon?
I'll be honest, it's so funny because I really don't I've never really been able to do that whole like pairing thing personally, right? It's always like, oh, it's even like for me, it's like even like drinking, you have this beer with this type of meat or this type of wine with this. I just never really had that, that thing in me to kind of know what the good pairings would be. But I do know that like they do have those shops and stuff that actually do that. So for me, I mean, it depends on the actual cigar. Like there's different, obviously, just like whiskey or any other beer, there's different strengths and
Sure.
flavors to a cigar. Even just a non-flavored cigar, a cigar that you would buy, even within the same manufacturer. Mac Noodle could have like 4 or 5 different types of cigars and the strengths of them and the way that they roll them and what they put inside it, the filler and stuff like that. So, sometimes you'll have like a really strong cigar, but yet I'll take a nice strong cigar. Maybe I'll pair it. You could have it with a light beer, a lighter beer, because it's you're not trying to compete with the flavor of the cigar. You got a lighter beer. Whereas if you got a nice robust stout beer or something like that, and you're drinking a Guinness or something like that, I actually will tend to grab a lighter flavored cigar because I want to taste the beer. I'm there for the
Right.
beer, but I'm not, so I do that type of thing I kind of do. But as far as what the perfect, yeah, I would never know.
Me
That's yeah,
either. Like I'll go to
yeah,
there's it's about 45 minutes from here, but there's an Italian restaurant that is like legit Italian. Like it's, guy from the old country came over here and through family generations, they've got this restaurant, but they can, on their menu, it'll say, okay, if you want this, then this is the wine, that you should pair
yeah,
with it. And I've tried that before and I just don't like wine enough to, it just
yeah,
doesn't work for me. I'm just like, just bring me a cold beer,
yeah,
that'll
yeah,
work
yeah,
for me,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I always find that interesting. All right. So now question 6,
Mhm.
and this is a new question because it's really just come into my mind in the past few weeks. And as because of my life, I'm trying to be a YouTuber and trying to do the things that I do. And so I'm going to start asking this question of people because I just want to know if it's the same. And that is, I know we've got this, spike going on with COVID right now, but it appears that we're trying to get on, with life, not necessarily looking to shut the country back down or anything like that, like it was before. And
Yeah.
so, like with my kids are very active in sports. I go to football games. I'm a season ticket holder for Kentucky football, and went to the first home game this weekend. Um, concerts are starting to come back around. I'm a big music guy. I'm going to a 4-day festival here in about 3 weeks. Then my daughter is wanting to go watch Harry Styles, and we're going to go to Nashville and watch that. So, like the first appearances and key issues video that I do, I've been having to do at my office
Mhm.
because I'm having to do it there because I'm having to pick Ashton up from dance, and that's later, so I don't have time to come home. And I would end up shooting that thing at 11 o'clock at night. I got to sleep right at least a little bit. So I'm finding it during COVID, like full blown COVID, when nothing was going on, everything was shut down. It was really pretty easy to manage the YouTube channel, to do the videos. I had plenty of time to do those things because
Yeah.
I wasn't pulled in 20 different directions. But right now I'm finding it harder to, find time to actually make the content. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'll figure it out. Once I get into my schedule, I'll knock it out. But are you finding the same thing? Like as far as
Oh,
making the content?
Absolutely, no doubt about it, Jim. I mean, that's tough. It's a funny thing because I just don't realize people watching the show. You don't realize. I mean, it's kind of like taking on a part-time job. I mean, it
Oh, for
literally
sure.
you put so much time into making these videos, especially ones that you're editing. If it's a live stream, I mean, for me, that's why live streams fits perfect for me because I I'm so busy with work and I don't always make it to the comic shop. Like I didn't go this past week. Prior to this week, I went like on a Saturday the weekend before, and then ended up had to grip like 4 weeks worth of comics just in one visit. So it's kind of like I'm having to batch these things to kind of get, which means I don't have content to be showing off. Hey, new comic book day. Look what I got today, type of thing.
Yeah,
And I'm not big on, I don't receive a lot of AOKs and I don't definitely do a lot of mystery boxes, right? So I don't have like a mystery Monday mail calls and stuff like that. So for me, I felt that I was always kind of trying to, every Wednesday, okay, boom, take off, go over to the comic shop at lunchtime or take an early lunch if something was coming out new that I wanted to get and it was going to be a hot book. I'd be like 11 o'clock. I'm fortunate enough, I live 5 minutes away from my comic shop, so I could just take a drive over there, be back in my home within 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the latest,
sure.
which always amazes my wife. She's like, how the hell didn't you just leave? It's like, yeah, I just ran over, grabbed my box and came back, and walked through the shop. It's not that big of a shop. Grab what I want off the new comic books, but getting more and more content and trying to constantly keep that content fresh and moving forward and going. It's a struggle, man. And I don't see how like people like you and Gary and DJ Links and Rob Vetstacks and I mean I just don't that's tough, man. I mean like Legion of Comics, everybody, you guys just really, I mean, you guys are killing it with that content, that's for sure. But I also I also, yes, I get concerned about you guys burning out, about, because
Sure.
it
No,
really
but
is a
that's
thing.
yeah,
It
no,
is a thing.
100%. I mean, it's right. So right now, it's still a labor of love. Like I
Yeah,
love doing it, right? And a lot of this stuff, like first appearances and key issues, I do that anyway. I do that research. And so I
yeah,
do it anyway. And so I just started recording what I was researching, and
yeah,
so that part of it, but that is hands down the hardest video to edit because I have to get all the pictures. I have to get them
yeah,
loaded in. It takes longer to edit, like 10 questions. I legit download it. If we have a spoof or something happen in the middle of it, I might edit it out. But for the most part,
yeah,
I just let it roll. It's almost like doing it live. I just let it roll. I put the intro and the outro on it, and bam, I upload it.
yeah,
I'm done.
yeah, yeah.
Mystery Box Monday is really pretty easy for me to do. I do have to find the prices on a lot of the books and do that. But you're right. The burnout thing, like that's almost a concern for me too, because I'm literally all over the place all the time. And like I said, my life's really scheduled. I've said that on here before. I have a
Yeah.
secretary that essentially runs my life. That, even Amy and
I
them
may need to
contact,
borrow her, by the way.
right. So, and this whole YouTube thing for her, because she's older, she thinks it's ridiculous. She's been with me forever. And so she thinks this is ridiculous. Like, she thinks I'm stupid for even fooling with it. She's like, you're running a company and you're trying to play with comic books and all this. You need to get your head on right. Like, she tells me that all the time. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it's my life. This is what I want to do. So she's on board now. And so
But
she's scheduling me in.
the thing about this, Jimmy, is you're not only just out, but you're at two YouTubes. You're
Mm-hmm.
running on like two YouTube channels now instead of just this one. I mean, I don't know if anybody else knows that, but it's just so funny. It's like, oh, where the heck do you find the time? It's like, and knowing how busy you are, knowing how, you know, how your life is scheduled and what you do for a living. It's just like, man, what? It's baffling. Yeah, craziness.
Yeah, no,
So
it's just I work all the time. I mean, I
yeah,
work, but like I said, it is really like there's nothing more important to me than my kids, right? So,
yeah,
and my family, nothing. And so it is everything's scheduled in. If it becomes a point to where like my girls' stuff gets scheduled, and then I'm not missing that. That's just it is what it is. Everything gets scheduled around that.
yeah,
That's a number one priority. That's what we do, and
yeah,
and then I just find time. Like I said, I've been having to shoot the first appearance key issue video essentially after I get done working, before I go pick Ashton up for dance, because she
yeah,
dances till like 8 o'clock at night. So I get it all done, and then I generally edit. And I sit while I'm at the dance studio, sitting there working on posts for
Mhm.
Instagram and all the different things that I do. And so, yeah, but no, so you feel it too, right? Like you feel
Oh
that
yeah.
too. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fortunate for me, I don't have children. I got, a couple dogs and my lovely wife, and she thinks I'm kid enough that, and she don't want any more kids, she's already taking care of me.
just take care of
But
you, right?
yeah, so I'm a kid enough, so I'm already, 50-some-year-old kid. But yeah, it literally is, for me, just in general, trying to get between all of the things I do for work. I mean, literally, you know, it's a holiday today, by the way. And I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I jump online and I'm working away,
Mm-hmm.
I got people in, India that are working on a website for me right now. And I'm, back and forth chatting with them and talking with guys in Grand Rapids that did some work for me over the weekend. And so I'm constantly on working and working and working, but then I'm also, I try to find time for me and for my wife and stuff like that, and as well as the YouTube community. So it was very tough sometimes and it's funny because that for the longest time, that's kind of the reason I got the White Shadow name was because of the elusiveness of getting me on a show. Was
Right.
because of the fact that I was so busy with everything else. I was like, yeah, I'll try to get in, but I don't know if I'll be able to make it, type of thing. And so I've been trying to focus in a little more on that, try to be
No, it's
more
interesting because
accommodating.
it really is like the people who do this, like big channels. That's a lot of times that's what they do. That's their job. Is they run a
Yeah,
YouTube channel or they got the side hustle with statues or comic books or toys or whatever. These really big channels. When you're
yeah,
like us and you're small and it's as much for fun as it is anything, it can
yeah,
easily become work.
yeah,
And it is work. I mean, let's not BS around. What we do when you put out content, it's work because it
yeah,
takes time, it takes your mental power, it takes effort, it takes all those things, and it
yeah,
is legit work. But it's still a labor of love for me. It's not become to where if it ever starts feeling like work, then I'll be done. I'm not going to worry
yeah,
about it anymore
yeah,
because I do it for fun. And
yeah,
like I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
in Kentucky football, because I do a lot of my stuff, a lot of my recording on Saturdays because of my schedule. That's just the way that it works for me. Is I'll shoot the mystery box Monday. I'll shoot. Sometimes I do first appearances and key issues. I try to wait a little later just to try to catch all the information so I get as much in that video as I can. But Kentucky Commonwealth Stadium is my happy place. Like
Yeah,
that is my happy place. Like there ain't nothing better. My
yeah.
best friend goes with me. We hang out, we go eat good, but being in that stadium, that atmosphere, that is my happy place and I refuse to miss it. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
it was just like I'd
I,
been to the game, I'd come home, I took a quick nap, I got up, I did some work. I actually did some work on Saturday evening. Then I jumped on, did spine ticks. Hell, I didn't go to bed till 2 or 3 in the morning. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it is. It's fun. All right, so I'll sit here and talk to you all day. We're already like an hour and we're only through question 7. I try to be
that's
done.
I'm
I,
whenever.
no, well, I try to be done like in an hour, but I've enjoyed this so much just talking with you that it's anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, question
Yeah.
7, and I really wanted to ask you like about the family part of it because I know you said you didn't have any kids, but how does your wife support you in this, or what does she even think about it? Like my mine thinks I'm an idiot sometimes. She doesn't care. She's really supportive, but she's like, "Look, don't you have enough to do?" You know, and
Yeah.
but she's supportive. You find that same thing with your spouse?
Yeah. Yeah. My wife is, God, she's an angel. I'm surprised at all the things that she just that and it's funny because like yesterday, she's never watched a kung fu. She doesn't like kung fu movies. She's like, I hate kung fu movies. Why would I? No way, no way. Matter of fact, she's just like, no, 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 no. So she actually the other day, it's like, so like, are we gonna go see Chung-Chi? I'm like, wait, what? I was like, sure. So I
Yeah,
ended up taking her last night to see it, and she sat through it and she enjoyed it. She thought it was pretty good. I mean, she's not she knows nothing about the comic characters. I mean, but she's learned because she watches them on TVs and movies and stuff with me now. But she's very good and very supportive of getting. Like a lot of times she'll be like, "Oh, we got to watch Loki tonight." I'm like, "Wait, what? Loki was on? Oh, I didn't." It's like I got so many things going on. She's the one knowing when these shows are
yeah,
showing up and coming online. It's so funny how that's happened now. I go out and I mentioned that I was going to be looking at buying, I know we went to a Star Wars, it, funny enough, a garage sale. A guy in our subdivision here where I live, in the area where I live, has had a garage sale for the past 10 years, and it's strictly Star Wars related garage sale. I
Really?
literally, I was shocked at this. I was like, no way, whatever, right? The guy is like a Star Wars aficionado, I guess, and he has all these characters. And what he tries to do is he tries to get these figures, and anytime he buys like lots of Star Wars off of people or whatever, he doesn't. He tries to take the things that he knows he doesn't need, and he tries to, okay, this is a good price for it, and this is a price that I can get it to someone else and get them started in the process and project and appreciate it, especially with kids and stuff, because he says the way he says it is a lot of the kids and stuff, mom's not going to pay $20 for a 6-inch figure of Boba Fett or whatever.
Right.
So he'll sit there and he'll sell it for like $7, $8, something like that,
Really?
where a kid can actually, yeah, and he does these great, and they're like in box. So he does all of because he's like, I got so many of these things. Needless to say, my wife and I decided we were going to go check this out for the first time this past year, this past early spring. And I was like, I got on and I was like StreamYarding it. And I was showing Cardboard Crazies and Remy Q and all that on their show. And I'm showing them walking around. And I was just like in awe. So my wife ended up buying me my first little black, my Black Series Boba Fett. And, but she's always really supportive in those types of things, and whether it's cigars and we're like, oh, hey, let's go check out, we'll be in an unusual town we've never been to before. She's always on her phone as I'm driving, where are the cigars and where are the comic shops, and then we're like, oh, okay, so, oh, let's go here, oh, let's go there, or same with the saltwater, where's the saltwater fish stores, let's go check out, so let's see if there's anything new we could buy and stuff like that. So
Well, that's
yeah, so
cool.
she
No,
said,
that's yeah.
yeah,
Number one, that's cool that your wife's that cool, and number two, it's cool that
yeah,
this cat just has a yard sale because he's buying a bunch of stuff, probably some of which he needs, the other he doesn't, and so but he resells it to help people and kids get. I think that is awesome.
yeah,
Like that
yeah,
is so cool. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really really. Now, my wife is cool, right? Like she doesn't care, like whatever you want to do, like what she tells me, she said, look, you provide a great life for us. You're
yeah,
always there. She said, all the crap that you do, and this is, I will pat myself on the back because I work really hard at this, is my kids
yeah,
don't feel like I'm absent because of all the stuff that I do. I'm always there, no
yeah,
matter what. I don't care what's going on. And like I said, it's what I live for. I do everything I do for those two girls and my
yeah.
wife. And so, it's but she has no interest. Like she'll go watch the movie with me if I want to go, right?
Hmm.
But she
Yeah,
has zero interest in any of this. Like, and my girls
yeah.
don't really either. Now my baby is. I've said it on here before. My baby is a collector. We have bonded over vinyl. She loves music and loves old music, and it blows my mind the stuff that she likes. And so we have started going to
That's
antique
awesome.
shops, and I will look for comic books, and then she looks for vinyl and things that she wants. And she's 13. Like I think that's so cool
Oh
um,
yeah,
that she's into that. So yeah, no, that's cool. That's one of the things I found, Chip, in talking with a lot of the members of the community is they have cool spouses. Their spouses are either into the hobby with them or they're just awesome. And it
yeah,
makes it to where we can do and be nerds,
yeah,
and do what we want
yeah,
to do. So yeah, no,
yeah.
that's
It's
awesome.
it's 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 neat. I think it's cool that they're very supportive, and yeah, I definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate her. I love you, honey. She's sitting
Yeah,
up there
me too. I love you
in
back.
the other room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
yeah,
No, but
exactly.
yeah. All right. So let's jump over to question 8 here. And this is something about you I didn't realize till probably maybe a month, maybe 2 months ago. I think you posted a picture. And you have had this incredible weight loss journey. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I thought it was, as someone who struggles with their weight, I struggle with my weight. I always have. I played sports, and so I was always fit. But I sit constantly, every day in my job. I have to make myself get up and walk around just to move. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's a struggle for me. And
Yeah.
I saw, you've lost a great deal of weight. And I think, can you talk a little bit about that and your story kind of behind that?
Yeah. So I little background on me. I've always been a big guy. I've always been a overweight kid. As a kid growing up, I was the overweight kid, and stuff like that. I went in the military, spent time in the army. Towards the later part of my military career, now, I was, a little struggle with the weight type of thing. You know, the weight that they're supposed to be at, there's no way humanly possible that I would ever have been that weight anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But it became one of those things where it's like, as I got out of the army, it was, heavy into lifting, heavy into weight, workouts and stuff like that and weight training. And then I just stopped doing that and started moved on to life in general and working and stuff. And the pounds started piling on and on and on. I met my, I was getting in shape, but I was losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. Um, uh, Ended up meeting my wife. And at that time, okay, I've got me a girlfriend now. I got me a wife, and I think I can't remember how old I was. I can't remember actually how old I was. It's been about 20 years. So we've been together about 20 years now. So I'm 34, 35 years old, I guess. And so at that time, I was like, oh, I'm gonna, get in shape. I got in shape, and then I met my wife, and then of course, then it's like, okay, now I'm happy and content, and so you start going back, and the pound just started gaining and gaining and gaining and building up. So, and I actually, at my highest weight, I was at about 368 pounds, and it's funny because now I have a picture in my office of my wedding day. It's actually like sitting right there, and people are looking at it, they're like, "Who is that guy? That isn't you," And I'm like, "Yeah, that is me. That was me. 20 years ago, 18 years
Yeah.
ago, whatever. Um, but it got to a point where I pretty much gained a weight, but then I'd always like in the background, I do the Atkins, I do the weight, I tried, Weight Watchers, we tried Jenny Craig, we tried Fen, we tried, just the phentermine, I mean, the drinking the shit, I mean, tried anything and everything to lose the weight. And it's just like, and I struggled. And then unfortunately with me, the way I am, and when I'm eating, I'm like, I'm always, oh, here, honey. Oh, I bought you Snickers. Oh, I bought you this. Oh, I bought you candy. Oh, I bought you this and that. And then, some weight started coming up on her as well. So, her and I both decided that we would go ahead and we would try to lose weight, together. And we would try all these different things, and we couldn't, and nothing stuck. So, about probably 5 years ago, I think, probably 5 or 6 years ago, we decided we're going to go and we're going to investigate and look at surgery, bypass surgery, or, for,
Mm-hmm.
the stomach. So we ended up looking at that. We looked into it. We sat in a seminar. We took all the paperwork. We did all that. We checked with our insurance, who happened to be just my insurance provider at the time, through my work. And they didn't offer any compensation, right? They weren't going to cover it. So I'm like, well, all right, there goes that idea. So we kept going and doing all this. And then I have a brother and sister, and they live in Phoenix, Arizona with my parents now. And my brother ended up he was also a big guy. He had weight loss surgery. And what he ended up doing is he got a job working for Lowe's. And he said the only reason he got a job working for Lowe's was because two things. One, he was also doing landscaping on the side, and he could get discount on landscape supplies. The second thing is that they had insurance through uh, through Blue Cross Blue Shield. So, and Blue Cross Blue Shield covered his surgery. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? So, my wife, and he had lost some good weight. My wife ended up getting a new job, and they had Blue Cross and Blue Shield insurance. So as soon as we found that out, we're like, oh, okay, well, let's see what it's going to take to go to your insurance instead of mine. So we switched over to her insurance, and they covered the actual surgery. So we both decided we would go in at the same day and get surgery on the exact same day. And it's a basically what I had was it's called duodenal switch. They basically take your stomach, they knock it down to about the size of a banana, they cut off where it attaches to the small intestine, and they move it farther down that small intestine, so that way you're not taking in as many nutrients, meaning you're not taking as many calories, you're not taking many carbs, it's not breaking down the body, and it comes out to the large intestine in a quicker manner, so you don't take on as much but you're living on vitamins, right? And
Right.
minerals, but you're not taking on those bad things as well either. The fats, the cholesterol, not the cholesterol, but the carbs and the things like that. Um, so that's what we decided we would go ahead and we would do. It worked out great. I mean, um, it's something I would definitely do again. That's for sure. I actually, my wife, it's a 3 day, you're in the hospital for a few days. My wife was in and out in 3 days, and I was in and out in a month. So it took me a month to recover. I had complications with my surgery, and so there was the leakage down where they reattach at the small intestine, where they reattach it. It was leaking and then just putting stomach bile and everything into my cavity of my body.
Hmm.
So I was in this, room basically, and had these nurses that would come in all dressed in these outfits, and they'd have to, because it was contagious, so, for the, everything I had, and so it was kind of crazy. So, but I spent a month there trying to figure out what was going on. They couldn't find the leak. Because every time they would do a scan and I'd take the drink and they'd watch and I literally, it was cool because I got to watch it on the X-ray, and and they'd see it, like I'd take a drink and you could see the liquid going down or whatever, the whatever, it's like a magnesium or whatever the stuff is, magnetic type stuff, and it would actually, you could see it like spraying out up here. You'd see all the fluid spraying out up here at the top of the stomach, up by the esophagus and stuff, and you're like, what the heck is going on, right? And so they're thinking that something was going on up there, and it turns out that it was just riding up the zipper or the staples from my stomach. It was riding up the staples and going out, but it was leaking down at the bottom of my stomach. So it took them for like it took them a few weeks to realize that, after surgery and going in, and they moved me from one hospital to another. They scoped me. Okay, nope, it's not leaking at the top. That's all good. It's down at the bottom. So then they had to go in and do surgery, and yeah, so, and that was a scary
Interesting.
thing for my wife.
Yeah,
So that,
I'll bet it
yeah,
was. Yeah,
so.
absolutely. So how, like, once you're done, like, can you still, like, I am an eater, right? Like, I can chow
Mhm.
down. Um, can you still eat like you could before? It's just not absorbing all the, you're basically going to the bathroom quicker. It's leaving your body quicker,
Yeah.
but can you still eat like you did before, or does it change the way you eat and everything?
It has changed the way I eat. So for instance, I mean, I can't eat as much. So for me, I mean, it was no problem for me to go to McDonald's and get me a quarter pounder with cheese and a cheeseburger and a large fry and a large drink. I mean, that was like my lunch for whatever. And nowadays it's like, okay, could I have a four-piece nugget or a kids meal, right? And then I'll eat two or three of the chicken nuggets and maybe the apple that comes with it or something, and a little bit of drink. So it's kind of, the stomach has gotten so small that it's like you just can't eat as much as you used to. And it also, the funny thing about it is it changed the things that I used to like. I found out that I no longer like the taste of, so it's really weird. Yeah. It's crazy. So like I mean, I was a big root beer guy. I loved root beer, the taste
Uh-huh.
of root beer. And now it's just like I can't drink it. It tastes like medicine to me. It's just really it's got a
Really?
real weird taste to me. Yeah. But so now I like, if I drink it something, it's like I'm drinking like a water, a little flavored water or something like that. But or coffee. That was the one thing I was thankful for. Coffee. It didn't affect coffee. I was like, and every time the nutritionist said, okay, so you have to stick to 8 ounce cup of coffee, no cream, no sugar. And I'm just like, yeah, that ain't happening. I mean, I'm okay without the cream or sugar, but it ain't going to be 8 ounces. That's for sure. Because I
Yeah.
drink it all day. So that was the one thing I told her. It's like every time she'd be like, how did you do this week? And I'd be like, yeah, okay, just don't worry about the coffee side of things. I did good on the food, type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
But it does definitely change how much you can eat and then what you actually eat, and your body reacts differently. Like for me, I used to, cilantro and onion on a taco, and now it's just like I can't eat raw onion. I mean, as soon as I eat raw onion, my stomach just swells up and gets really like rock hard and starts hurting. So it's like
Really?
it's really, yeah, it's weird. Yeah, bread. I can't eat bread. I can't do bread, but I'm okay eating potato or anything other starchy or anything like that. It's just really weird. Yeah.
So you just kind of have,
So
it's kind of like trial and error. You just have to figure out what you can eat and what you can't. That's interesting.
it is. Yeah, yeah. You're totally trying to figure out what makes me feel the best, it makes me feel the fullest without eating a lot of it. That's
Yeah.
kind of, I could rice, no problem. I got no problem with the rice. I got no problem with potato chips. But yet, if I try to eat a piece of bread, yeah, I'm dead in the water. That's it. My stomach is done. It just doesn't
Huh.
like it.
How
Yeah.
much weight have you lost altogether since your surgery?
Um, I've lost about 167, 68 pounds
Wow.
since the surgery. Yeah. Yeah. I'm right at about 200 now. So
Oh, wow.
that's about where
That's
I
great,
wanted to
man. Yeah.
be.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
health wise, you feel much better. I'm sure it's just, all the way around.
Oh yeah. It's been great. I mean, as far as, so, I mean, being a big guy, I always had, I mean, just walking in general was, okay, I got to go from here all the way over there. Are you crazy? Oh my Lord, where's the, it's like, just, it was a lot of work to do just normal routine things that you would normally think are, no big deal. I can tie my shoe and no big deal. Now it's just like, you know, at the time it was like a pain in the butt just to get down to tie a shoe type of thing. And, you find yourself slip on, slip on, slip on, but now it's just like, yeah, no, I can pull my leg up. I can tie my shoe. I mean, I don't have that extra weight in order to prevent me from doing a lot of the things, physically that I used to have limitations on. And, and I have more energy now than I did in the past. So that's for sure. So I mean, for me to, stay up all night and then wake up early in the morning. It's no big deal.
Hmm.
I've got the energy to do it. So
That's cool.
yeah,
No,
it's
I
worked
just
out
as
great.
somebody I've always struggled, especially I'm like you. I got married. I was pretty fit when Amy and I got married. Like I worked out all the time because I was single for a long time. I didn't get
Yeah,
married till I was older, and on purpose. I didn't think I'd ever get married or have kids. To be honest with you, I
yeah.
was just loving that single life, and um,
Hmm.
so. But then we got together, and I just started gaining weight here and there. And she still loved me; it didn't matter, and that's all I cared about. And then the kids came along, and then I'm like a human garbage disposal. Like whatever they didn't eat, I would eat.
Yeah.
It's I don't
Yep.
know, it's just one of those things, with life. And then, like I said, I've lived a pretty sedentary lifestyle in the fact that when I work, I'm generally sitting down. Um, I had lost a bunch of weight, and then COVID came, and I couldn't get out and really do anything, so I picked the weight back up. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so no, that's just I always found that interesting when I saw that picture. I was like, wow, I always wanted to talk to you about that because it is something I truly struggle with. Now, if I will watch what I eat and exercise, I can lose the weight. Like that's not
Yeah.
a question. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it or making the time to do it and putting forth the energy to make it happen. And I'm just a big eater. Hell, I was raised in the hills, dude. That's what we eat like it's our job. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah. Yeah.
always
I mean,
did.
that's how my family was too. Yeah. I mean, my family's the same way. I was raised to clean the plate, if
Me
it's,
too.
yeah,
I had two good
you put
grandmothers
it
that
on
would
your
cook
plate,
it
you're
up.
eating it.
Oh yeah, I have two grandmothers that love to cook for me because
Oh,
I have always been a
yeah.
big man. Like I'm a
Yeah.
big guy. Period. Like I'm tall. I'm wide shouldered. I'm a big guy, and
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I carry it pretty well, and I'm still pretty fit as far as I can walk and do the things I need to do. But still, it's just a
Yeah.
constant struggle. Yeah. So no, interesting, man. I appreciate you, kind of talking about that. All right. So question nine
Oh,
is
not a problem.
this. Yeah, question nine. You've got that awesome Foo Fighters shirt on, and I don't know that I know your musical liking. So I'd kind of like to know what kind of music does the White Shadow listen to?
Wow. Man, my Spotify list is all over the place. It really is. I go from um I heavy into Foo Fighters. I love Foo Fighters. Seen them many, many a time, much like you are in Metallica. By the way, my wife is a huge Metallica fan as well. So yeah, she's all about Metallica, and she found out that there's Sirius XM has a Metallica channel. So
Oh
she's like,
yeah, it's a mandatory Metallica right now.
yeah, so we're driving down south the other day, and she's just like, "Oh, hey, yeah." So she's jamming out. She's probably known for a while, but she put it on her car finally, and we just sat there and listened to Metallica live at blah blah blah, wherever they were
Hmm.
at. So I mean, so we both like that type of music. But growing up in the '80s, I was really big into hip hop and music and stuff like that. So, but for me, hip hop wasn't like, for me, it was like Curtis Blow and even earlier than that type of stuff with I'm trying to think just soul in general. I mean, it was like, I guess,
Sure.
a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm trying to think of who the bands were that I used to listen to back in the day when I was a kid. But um Run DMCs and stuff like that as a kid growing up, and doing the breakdancing and stuff, on the street corners. But then but I also had the fortunate fortunate for me that I had a gentleman that lived across the street from me. It was one of my best friends, one of my friends, that I grew up with, best friend. His dad was really big into music. So he would, every week, he would go to flea markets and he would buy 8-track tapes. So, and for those who don't know, 8-track tapes are like cassette tapes, but they're like 3 times the size of them.
Right.
Right? So he would go and he would buy these 8-track tapes, and he would just have gods and gods that had 8-track tapes, and he'd have bands, he'd have like Sam Cooke, and he'd have,
Oh yeah.
everything else like that. And it was just amazing at the amount of stuff that he had. And as a kid, I would help him like bring those into the house, as well as, work with him and catalog them and put them up for him and stuff like that. And I got turned on to that type of music. So listening to Sam Cooke and doing all that stuff, growing up on that type of music for him, really, introduced me to a different type of music than what I was used to growing up with. I think one of my first concerts was Kiss, hanging out and checking them out. But I, also growing up, in that era was Pink Floyd and Rush and bands like that. And then would get into, some of the Motown stuff through this gentleman that, lived down the street from me. He was Mr. Carter. He was my second father, basically, from my mom, who was divorced. So he was the father figure in my life at the time. And then, growing up, even in the military, when I got in the military, I mean, everything was about soul music and Motown and stuff like that, and the old Teddy Pendergrass and Luther Vandross and stuff like that, and listening to that stuff. And now I've kind of gone back and I'm listening more to Foo Fighters and Nirvana and Metallica and Pink Floyd and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I mean, I the Pixies and the band called The and it's all over the place.
Mine is
really
too.
is.
Like I listen to literally everything. There's my baby just discovered Sam Cooke and
Oh
picked up
yeah,
one of his albums. She discovered Sam. It's funny that you said that because I love
yeah,
Sam Cooke as well, and
yeah.
she loves it. She's kind of got an old soul when it comes to music.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
and so I've been turning her on to a little bit of the Motown. My uncle used to listen to Motown. When I would ride with him,
Yeah,
we'd go pick or go to the flea markets. He loved Motown, and so we listened to a lot of Motown. And then Metallica, I discovered. I think it was my sophomore, junior year of high school. I went to the
mm,
Black Tour, and they had
yeah,
the Snake Pit, and it melted my face, and like it changed my life as far as like music goes because
yeah,
I was just floored by it. And but no, music's a big part of what I do. I listen to music all day long. Like
yeah,
there's a sports radio show that I like to listen to when I'm working. It's on for 2 hours, and then when that goes off, I listen to music. And
yeah,
and that's how I get through the day is listening to music and watching YouTube. That's
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of my thing. Yeah.
That's it
So
exactly. Yeah, that is
yeah,
exactly it.
and really YouTube has become like my radio. A
Hmm.
lot of times when I drive, I listen to a ton of the content. It's like I said, I listen to your
This,
stuff.
yeah,
Everything that you do, I listen to it while
yeah,
I'm driving. I just never get to comment, and
yeah,
then I'll
yeah,
try to make time to come back and comment when I can. But yeah,
yeah,
no, so that's I always find everybody's musical taste interesting. Like I can't wait. Like I'm getting ready to go to this Louder Than Life concert. Metallica's
yeah.
headlining 2 nights in Louisville. And but then you've got Jane's Addiction and Stained and Disturbed and
Oh
Snoop
yeah,
Dogg and
yeah.
Corn
Every,
and yeah, everybody's gonna be there. Like I cannot wait. Like I'll
yeah,
be gone for 4 days. I'm gonna work while I'm gone. My cousin is who I'm going with. He's a doctor there in Louisville, and I'll go to his crib and he and I'll go to the shows. But we'll go over in the evenings, about an hour before the first band we want to watch, and we'll go over and then
yeah,
rock out for a few hours. I'll come back, sleep, and get up and work the next day and do it over and over. I can't wait. And now my oldest daughter loves Harry Styles. She was a big
yeah.
One Direction fan.
Yep.
And I actually kind of dig Harry Styles too because I'm with her so much. I have to listen
Yeah,
to it so much that I actually kind of like it. So I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway, but I always think
It,
that's an interesting question.
yeah, it is because I mean it's funny because I'm like Harry Styles and bands like that. Even some of the modern stuff that the younger generations listening to. It's like it's funny because TikTok has introduced me to a lot of different music that I would have
Sure.
never heard of because I'm like, who's doing that? And then all of a sudden I'd be like, I'll go on Spotify and be like, who the hell's singing that? And I'll be like, that's a pretty good song. Okay, I could deal with that, you know? So yeah, it's kind of interesting how it all kind of, yeah, music is big in my life as well, as far as, you know, that goes. And I'm always listening to music if I'm working and I got my headphones on, you know, I'll throw music on and, you know, let it roll, you
Let
know?
it roll, baby. That's how I
Yeah,
get some of my best work done. I'll put something on and just work.
yeah,
Just
yep.
go to work, especially if I'm doing paperwork. So, all
Oh
right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
All right, man. We have made it to question 10.
All
And this
right.
has by far been the longest 10 questions to this point.
Sorry.
You have overtaken, no, you've overtaken Rob Fatstacks.
Oh,
He'll be disappointed. I told you before we started that this interview, like a lot of these questions that I ask are different than what I do most weeks, because this was a little more selfish for me, because I love Chip and I wanted to get to know Chip a little
oh,
better, and I hadn't had the
thanks.
opportunity to really sit down and really talk to Chip, and so a lot of my questions are just things that I've wanted to ask him and kind of go through. So, all right, so question 10, and we'll leave it. An easy, nice, easy question is, what I know you said you're looking for the Evil Knievel.
Mm,
That's kind of a grail thing that you're looking for. But is
hmm.
there anything else that Chip's on the hunt for right now? That, like, everybody kind of makes their list at the beginning of the year. Okay, I want to grab this, 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 and this. Is there anything that you're looking for right now?
So comic related, I'm always I'm looking to fill as much of my ASM run that I currently have. Um, so I've it's quite a ways away from getting filled, but I figure anytime I go to a comic shop, I'm always looking to see what's in my CLZ. Do I have anything? Do I have this in my app? Yep. Okay. Nope. I don't need that one, but let's go this one. Yep. And if it's a good price, I'm gonna probably buy it. You know, if it's, you know, within a few dollars or whatever of what I would normally have paid, you know, or want to pay, then I'm gonna probably pick it up just because I want to have it now, type of thing. The big grails for me that I would say comic related would be like ASM 50. That was one that when I first got into comic collecting, I'm like, okay, I want the year and the month that I was born, July 67. I want Thor, Amazing Spider-Man, Batman. I want, because those are the three comics that I actually read the most of and like the most. I want all of those. I want those three, you know, the comics that came out that month and that year. So I've got the first two, Batman and Thor. I got Spider-Man. I don't yet. So that's ASM 50. So
Oh,
that one's on
cool.
my list for sure to kind of get. I
I
just,
like
you know,
that.
it's one of those though that I wanted to kind of get, and I want to make sure it's a great quality because it's one I'm gonna. You know, I've already got it's a good quality Thor, good quality, you know, Batman, but I just want to make sure that I have good quality of, you know, version of it so that way I can slab it or have it self-slabbed and hang it and have it, you know, displayed. I've got a spot right here next to my, you know, wall right here that I've got for those three comics sitting right there ready to go. So um beyond that, I don't have a lot of other really big things that I'm looking for. Just a little bit of
Yeah.
this, a little bit of that. I'm not really, you know, there isn't a big huge, I'm not like, you know, I just kind of, you know, that's probably the biggest thing right now is that ASM 50 for me. Everything else is pretty much, it's similar to you. You know, if I want it, I'll just go out and I'll buy it, you know, type
Yeah,
of thing.
that's kind of what I
You know,
do. But like
yeah,
I said, my big thing that I'm working on now, I'm working on really four different runs, I guess.
yeah,
Um, I'm working on the initial Star Wars run, 77.
yeah, yeah,
I'm working on that. I have most of the big books, but I'm working on kind of filling in the holes where I can. I'm working
yeah.
on the GI Joe.
Mm,
I
okay.
don't have the shoot. I completely lost it. My kids, wife, and kids are over here talking, and it
Yeah.
distracted me.
No, that's fine.
I'm working on what was that one book that I was wanting to? Oh, the Daredevil Silver Age
Oh,
run.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Working on that, and then really, I'm trying to start working on an Action Comics. Right now, I'm trying to work in the 200s.
yeah,
But those are really expensive books, so those are hard to grab. You get those Golden Age books, it's kind
yeah,
of a little more
yeah,
difficult. So yeah, but no, I like
yeah.
that. But I like your idea of the year you were born, that month and year, grabbing like the three main, your three main books. I think that's a cool
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I was, you know, there was like certain things that I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna collect and I want to have something, I want to definitely have something that means value, that has some sort of, you know, reason and purpose, and you know, has a personal value, a personal reason for it. Like there's things like I will never, I don't care how bad of a comic it is, I will never get rid of like my first, the first comics that I bought, from that comic shop, The
Sure.
Forge and the the Weapons of Mass Destruction #3 or any of that. I will never get rid of those things just because they're actually the first things that I bought. So they have a personal value to me. There's that connection with them. The same with
Sure.
the year that I was born and the month that I was born. There was that little bit of connection. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
man. No, cool.
yeah,
Great answer. Love that answer.
yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, that has been 10 questions. As I like to say, 10 questions that turn into 30. But 30 questions doesn't sound as catchy as 10 questions. So, but yeah, if you're not on Chip's channel, you need to go over there and check him out, and especially go hang out and watch Banter on Saturday nights. It's a lot of fun.
Come
Listen
on
to
in.
all these cats in the community. But go over and sub my boy up. He also is part of my Road to 1,000 subscriber giveaway. He did
Yep.
a beautiful, beautiful video in that it's funny, and he made fun of me and put Louisville gear on me. And he also parodied 10 questions. So it was great. Chip's really talented when it comes to those
Oh,
things. So,
you didn't.
uh-oh,
Uh-oh. I forgot.
uh-oh. What are
The
you doing
camera.
back there?
I even
Oh, you
mimicked
even put
you.
the UK on there. Awesome. See,
And
that's
then
my man.
but I got
The-
Jordan underneath it as well.
yeah, AD and Jordan. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I had to do the AD Jordan were there.
I
So
love it. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's what I'm
he went to
talking
sleep.
about. And then go also to Remy Q did a video. If you want to know the kind of cat Chip is, Remy Q did a
Oh,
video that will make you cry. And go over and check that out. But no, one of the best people in the community, and a guy that I feel lucky to call a friend, and I see most weeks on the hot seat with the usual suspects. He comes and hangs out with
yep.
us there. Um, Chip Gettler, the White Shadow. Can't beat him. All his stuff will be down in the description below where you can go look him up. And also, there'll be a link to the playlist for the Road to 1,000 subscriber giveaway where you can also see Chip's video that he did for this contest we got going. So, all right, guys, that is it. Chip Gettler, the White Shadow. There ain't a better guy in the community. Go check him out. This has been 10 Questions.